The biggest one I would say is lean into risk, because all too often people in our position shy away from risk. But right now we're at the pivotal point with AI where we have to. Otherwise, our businesses will get left behind.
Welcome to Software Leaders Uncensored, where tech leaders drop the filters and just tell it like it is. If you're just joining us, be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss an episode. I'm your host, Steve Taplin, serial tech entrepreneur, Amazon bestselling author of the book Fail Hard, Win Big, and CEO of Sonatafy Technology, a premier software delivery partner. Today, I am joined by Bradley Friemel, who over the past 15 years has led multiple SaaS transformations, modernizing legacy tech stacks and scaling engineering teams, and now is the CTO of Fullsteam, a unique fintech private equity company. This is going to be a fun conversation. Bradley, welcome.
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me. And it's I'm over the vertical, not over the entire.
So you are the CTO of the rentals vertical.
Correct. Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Tell us more about Fullsteam and the vertical you're the CTO of.
Yeah, definitely. So Fullsteam is a fairly large fintech company where we own a payment gateway. So then that allows us to go in there and buy payments focused companies and then structure them into the different verticals of like field services, rentals, health and wellness, et cetera. And I'm the CTO, of one vertical that is the rentals division. And within that rentals division, we have two IPs that are fairly prominent. One of them is event rental systems, and the other is dumpster rental systems. So think we're the operating platform for the businesses to automate their business.
Okay. Gotcha. How, out of curiosity, how many verticals does Fullsteam have to give everyone the idea of the scale of the company?
On our side of the house, because there's a like business operating side and then there's a enterprise side. So our side, there is about five or six different verticals.
Gotcha.
And then varying number of businesses within those verticals.
Excellent. All right. And is it fair to say that Fullsteam's a unique fintech that's a private equity company that's constantly doing acquisitions? So you kind of get the best in your role of the fintech compliance side, as well as the craziness, both good and bad, of the private equity world. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's really, really fair. It's a super unique and fun company to work with.
Awesome. Now, and you've been at the company just under 2 years, correct?
That's correct. Yeah. April 1st would be my 2-year.
Gotcha. So you have an amazing background. I understand why they hired you. My question for you is, how did you land your role in the company?
Yeah.
CTOs are a brutal role that are blamed for everything. I know other CTOs, good, bad, or indifferent, are always in the position of looking for new jobs and always like to hear how others got theirs.
Yeah. So I took a fairly unique approach to this. And this is probably not the standard way of getting into this role.
This is Software Leaders Uncensored. It's supposed to be standard or boring.
Oh, yeah. So I was an IC right before this role. I was a high-level architect at another fintech company. And we were doing very successful over there and I was enjoying it. And I just happened to get a random message on LinkedIn. And from there, the rest is history. Went through the interview process and everything. And yeah.
Okay.
LinkedIn.
They actually reached out to you.
Yeah.
Your industry expertise. And all right. That's awesome. And that's good to know. Tell us about some fun and interesting projects you're working on, what you can talk about.
Yeah, no doubt. I can actually talk about something that's pretty, well, we just released it. Let's say that. It was, we had our users conference about 2 weeks ago and we launched an awesome new feature. So since we are in the event space, we have companies on there that basically rent party equipment like bounce houses, snow cone machines, screens, those type of things.
Okay.
So we actually figured out how to create a AI party planner and then integrated with all of our operators. So now that we have their like personal websites and stuff like that they can sell and monetize, we also have the ability now to plan their customers' parties. And the great thing about it is we not only focused on all the availability rules and stuff like that to make it very legit. We focused on upsales too, so that our merchants or operators can make more cash along with providing a better experience for their consumers.
So those are your clients, and you created an AI party planner that they can use. How did you pull that off technically? Because obviously, it's one thing when you control everything internally, it's another thing when you're putting it on a third party's website.
We tried to narrow the focus as much as we possibly could. It's not like a two-way chat bot because that's like our version 2 of it. But our version 1 is all behind our servers and everything like that. It's self-hosted within AWS. So none of it like breaches the veil, so to speak. And even our systems are server-side rendered. So it's a pretty self-contained system.
Okay, great. Now, how many software engineers do you have on your team?
Yeah. So I would say right now on the event one is around 5, 6, and then about the same for the other one. We recently restructured a little bit. So some of the BUs kind of shifted into a different vertical. Otherwise, I would be able to, we had much more.
What is the work model at Fullsteam? Are you guys working remotely? Is it in office, hybrid?
Yeah. So for the engineers, we're all over. So I have people on the East Coast, not West Coast, Mountain Time, Central. And then we have some contractors that are in LATAM too.
Okay.
So yeah, that's pretty easy to say work from home.
Gotcha. What are some things that are slowing your engineering or product team down right now? And what are you trying that either worked or didn't work?
Yeah, that's fair. So some of the problems or some of the items that are like slowing us down is having to delicately handle a legacy code base or multiple legacy code bases. So it's always a trying task, especially if we onboard a new engineer. It's usually well, we can get them to production within a week, but to get like real ramp, it's like 6 months due to the complexity of the code. And
Okay.
even on top of that, it's our product team is newly budding. So whenever I came on to scale, I focused specifically on engineering first and then the product side. So we've had a product manager for about a year now, and we're kind of at the point for that to be like, does he go more into the technical product manager or more into the analytics and stuff like that? So we're trying to like figure out that growth pattern for him. But we're really having struggling points around go to market for that.
Why are there so many legacy code bases? Let's start with that. The nature
Definitely.
of your business.
Yeah. So that is the strategy of Fullsteam overall. They typically go and buy all these niches, and these niches are typically older. And then they roll out their payment system and then roll in ours.
Okay, gotcha. So you're dealing with a lot of different code bases that you may, for certain reasons or others, it may be a quick integration or a slow one.
Yes, exactly. Like one of the businesses I worked with was on VB, not VB.net, VB. And now some of the main ones are on PHP and some across the board are on more modern, like JavaScript, React-y code bases.
Okay. So that keeps your team on your toes of having multiple tech stacks across the board.
Yeah, it does.
Interesting. All right. So you got a lot of tech debt. How do you handle that without creating a messy backlog, killing speed? What's your approach?
Yeah, it's delicate. So we typically try to take a 60-40 approach because we're just so heavy on tech debt. So we do 60% of our time we structure for new development. And then the 40% is typically for bugs, technical debt, cleanup. But luckily enough, we've been able to spin some of our like quote unquote large features that are technically large technical debt into something that would benefit the business.
Okay.
So, and for instance, it's like, think about like, we have an older system that looks like the UI is from like 95, 96. So we're updating that to a modern one, which would be a high level of tech debt. But with our customer base, they're going to see the improvement in the UX, the UI, and they're really going to enjoy it.
Okay. So once again, your company is a fintech company, but act largely as a private equity company, doing a lot of acquisitions. Where do you feel is the most pressure for your business from speed to market, compliance, platform stability, cost control, all the above?
Yeah, I mean, you summed up some of the meetings I had this morning, but I would definitely say that the biggest focus for us is customer acquisition and new development. So I would say a close second is compliance.
Okay. And so what puts the most strain on your team?
I would say compliance. That's the hardest one. So it's with the legacy system, there's skeletons in the closet.
So we have a lot of fintech clients that like to keep their engineers focused on revenue generating activities, but have the growing compliance backlogs that need to be taken care of that most companies will put off as long as they can and make sure that it's done by the deadline. But how is that in your world?
Yeah, it's like that till you have an event where you're breached.
Okay.
So, and luckily with ours being so large, we've seen it across. So we're giving ample amount of budget to work on those type of things to really prevent that, especially being part of a fintech payment portal system.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at any given time, tell me if I'm picturing your business right. You have your current backlog of stuff. You mentioned you try to do 60% new development, 40% bugs backlog, and you're chipping down your backlog. It's looking good. And now there's 5 new acquisitions. Like, how do you handle the backlog pressure?
Yeah. Luckily, whenever I first joined to scale, I spotted that as one of the potential points of friction. So that's why I placed in the product manager. We've been training him over the time period to really take charge in like organizing the backlog and items like that so that I can step away and go work on like M&A due diligence and stuff like that.
Now, under your structure, so do you have product management or is that separate?
No, yeah. Underneath me, it's product and engineering.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, then at least when it's all under one leader, they can't go like this and say it's the
Mhm.
other one's fault, right? Which
Yep.
I can't even count how many engagements my company goes in. And they actually think it's an engineering problem. And we dig in, and it's more of product and engineering just not being on the same page and having bruises and not communicating the way they should, causing a lot of the issues.
Yeah. Yeah. We're very fortunate. The team and the culture that I built out, we have no deadlocks like that.
Okay, very nice. If a similar company as Fullsteam were facing the similar delivery friction challenges that you have, the compelling spontaneity of new acquisitions, what advice would you give a CTO or engineering leader from that company?
Yeah. I would say don't lose track of who you are. You're an engineer. Figure out, solve problems.
That's that's a good one. That's a very good one. How about, a lot of times the largest challenge CTOs have is explaining things to the non-technical executives in a way that they can truly understand. And especially when there's a large private equity focus, good, bad, or indifferent. I'm not saying this is how Fullsteam is, but many companies are known to almost manage off spreadsheets when private equity is involved, that it's tracked to numbers on ROI very carefully. How do you manage that?
Yeah, I relate to that. So I figured out I have a pretty good knack for breaking down like highly technical issues into terms that normal people can understand. And it goes back to me wanting to actually talk to my wife about what I do for a living instead of like talking about like all kinds of algorithms and like crazy server
Oh, wait a
stuff.
minute, but is your wife like a data scientist or a senior engineer?
But yeah, I mean, totally
I know
furthest from it.
my wife and I have been married for almost 27 years, and I don't think she could describe what I do.
Yeah, yeah. I've been together with my wife for 10 and she goes, "Oh yeah, he's a CTO." Have no idea what he does. He's on meetings all day. But to go back to your question, so I use that skill to really break it down to the various leadership levels. And I've learned that, and this is something that probably would go back to more CTOs really need to understand. is you are a salesperson. You might not think you are, but you really are, because you have to have the ability to sell those technical ideas to the non-technical people within your own organization. And that's what I had to learn myself. And now I figured out a pretty great way on how to tie ROI and those spreadsheets to the things that actually need to get done.
That is very well said. And oftentimes CTOs aren't that blunt about it, but I couldn't agree more. You give a great engineer who rises up the ranks through management, who hits the ultimate goal of being a CTO, which you got to have that sales capability, and that capability to communicate with non-technical executives is key. So I really like how you put that. So what's your secret sauce on how you tie it back to ROI and sell your ideas?
Yeah. So
Everyone's going to have a pen and paper out here, because if you have the magic formula that works every time, I know everybody's going to want to know.
yeah. So I look at the biggest green or the biggest red number, and I try to tie to that. No, it's I look at my capex, my opex, and I figure out if it's going to increase or potentially increase our sales based on some of what's in the marketplace and stuff like that, or if I'm going to make us more efficient and then reduce the FTE cost. So that's typically the two creation levers that I like to pull. And then I also flex on my product manager to go out there and do some of that more product-y type research. And then we can back engineer it on a product plan to present. And one thing that I've figured out too, along with tying it back to ROI, it's okay to sell the dream if you have a prototype, because people get excited about prototypes more than you think.
I couldn't agree more. And, that's certainly one of the things that AI has changed the game on, is although there's efficiencies in a lot of areas, but I think undisputedly the ability to put prototypes together quickly in the software engineering product lifecycle has been probably the biggest game changer. Feel free to disagree with me.
No, I totally agree. I've actually, as of a few days ago, I have a pretty solid pilot put together and approved for one of the BUs that I'm on top of. So now I'm gonna work with a product manager, and we're gonna build the front end of a product, download the code, and then utilize Claude to integrate it in to our legacy code base. Since one of our aspects are a little bit more tack on than like fully integrated.
Okay.
So we're gonna try that workflow as part of the pilot to prove that this is real now, which we all know it is.
What do you like to build those initial prototypes in? Do you use like Lovable or Figma Make or one of the many products out there?
Yeah. It's Claude and what's the other one called? It's called Replit.
Okay.
Yeah, and I kind of dig on that one. I used it prototyping out. Oddly enough, me being in niches, a mortuary management system, because I thought, I was like, well, that ought to be interesting. Let it rip. It did pretty okay.
Nice. Very nice. And, I think it's funny because any tools we talk about, everyone wants to be on the latest and greatest. And, all it takes is a new version or a new product that does something that another didn't do. And it's hard to keep up, to say the least. Bradley, what common mistake do you see other orgs make that you avoid? And how do you do it?
So the common mistake that I've seen is technologists selling too big on what AI can accomplish.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's came back to bite a few BUs that I've seen. Even one of the CTOs that I work fairly closely with, like they were stating something along the lines of, "Oh yeah, we can rewrite your entire legacy code base in about 30 minutes in a total different programming language."
Excuse me. Bullshit.
Yeah. Good luck. It's fun whenever my response is, "Show me."
Yeah.
Sure would be cool, wouldn't it?
If we put 10 CTOs, CEOs, tech leaders in a room, they'd probably have 10 different answers. But segregating the hype versus reality is certainly a big thing. And almost all but one or two leaders that I have had on this podcast really agree that AI has some great efficiencies and it's constantly changing, but it's not getting rid of engineers. It's not rewriting entire legacy code. Now, it assists engineers to do that. And depending on what part of the product lifecycle, there's different tools and different things. But yeah, that's a bold claim. I can rewrite your whole code base in a half hour.
Yeah, I look at it like you give a golden tool to a novice, they're still going to create something that's mediocre. But if you give a golden tool to an expert, they're going to create a masterpiece. And that's what I believe AI should be looked at, is through that lens of we're providing a golden tool to an engineer that is either going to make something amazing, or B, let it spin out and crash and burn.
So how do you handle, let's just say your CFO or your operating committee has external parties coming to them saying, why are you spending that much in engineering? AI can do it all. And your team doesn't know what they're doing if you're spending that much. I mean, that's probably every other day that whether it's the CFO, the COO, the CEO are getting hit like that. Like, how do you help them weed through the noise?
Yeah. So I try to really hit on the hype button. And it's like, okay, great. You're seeing this. Where else? Because I know I haven't, and I'm the expert in AI and technology here. So I kind of have to take more of a hardline approach when we were having those conversations to really defend the team, the guys, and stuff like that. Because you know as well as I do, once you lose that engineering confidence, you're going to get steamrolled.
Yes. And it's constantly being challenged by third parties with bold claims. And man, like it's almost, I feel like CTOs are constantly on defense. And because there's so much hype going on.
Yeah, it's everybody can try to sell something, but it's hard to prove it.
Very true. Very true. Before the show, you mentioned that a software tool that has paid off more than expected for you was Canny. I'm not familiar with that. Educate me on that.
Yeah, definitely. So Canny is a customer request portal. So it's something that you can actually get directly integrated into your system. And then it's almost like a message board, kind of like Reddit. And customers can come in there, post their ideas, chat with them, get upvotes and stuff like that so that they can quote unquote get their item onto our backlog. So, and the reason why that's been so fascinating, so we rolled it out about a little over a year ago, and it had a slow but sure uptick. So, and that really culminated in our user group event that we had 2 weeks ago,
Okay.
where they were literally saying, hey, go to our Canny board and upvote this or upvote that. And it was like all the customers were trying to like do a groundswell to get one of their ideas through while we were there. And we also have a fairly active Facebook group, or a couple of them. And they're always politicking on, hey, why don't we swarm this one or swarm that one? And it's like, okay, so this is real user feedback that we're getting from an excitable like user base, but it's controlled.
Okay.
So we can go in there and review it and combine items and stuff like that. And it's been highly beneficial on improving our customer relationship, because on the engineering side and even on the product side, we can kind of know what to do, but you're never going to get that entire breadth of opinions. And this kind of democratizes it. And it's not incredibly expensive either. So it's awesome.
Gotcha. Interesting. It sounds like a unique way to get your clients' feedback.
Yeah.
And bring more value to the table, talking to them from a product and engineering perspective based on it. I like it. So, Bradley, my book, Fail Hard, Win Big, is about how I've had 30 ventures and 20 of those failed and 10 succeeded. And by far, throughout my career, good, bad, or indifferent, I have found you don't learn from your successes. You learn from your failures and your ability to succeed based on analyzing those failures and analyzing and identifying what went wrong and how to not repeat that again. From your perspective, if your whole career boiled down to one lesson, what would it be?
Yeah, that's a fun one. So let me give you a little backstory with this
All
one.
right.
It's all, I guess let's do bottom line up front, and it's around testing your mettle as a leader, and especially as a technical leader. You really don't know how you're going to react till you are in it. So with that in mind, we went through an entire server migration. So we were on actual physical servers for one of the BUs going to cloud infrastructure. We had everything planned for months. And then it finally came to the cut day where we were going to flip the switch, and redirect all of our traffic to the new servers. Hopefully everything was going to work out well, which we know never does.
Right.
So nevertheless, we went down and we were up and down for about 6 to 7 hours in like peak business days.
Okay.
And so our customers are upset, internals are upset. And then you have me and my team, which is about 7, no, maybe 10, 15 at the time, like all trying everything that we possibly could to figure out what was wrong with the servers, what weird hitch it is. And it finally made it down to the last hour before we were going to make the cutover. So I gave the team one additional hour and I was like, okay, guys, we got to figure this out in an hour. And I go, if we don't, we're going to make the cut. And I go, and this is how you know how you're going to react in those scenarios. Instead of going hardline or shutting down or anything like that, I go, guys, I have faith in y'all. Y'all got this. And I kid you not, 5 minutes later, found it and everything worked. Yep. It was just a resourcing issue on one of the PHP servers.
So what could you do differently next time to minimize the chances of having outage? I mean, that's a pretty minute thing that is so easy once you can figure out what the problem is.
Yeah, it was definitely an oops, because it was a single resource thing that was for memory allocation was capped when it typically is not.
Okay.
And it was a mistake in one of the server configuration docs. But what I would say is load test, load test, load test. If you're going to do something like that, I know it's a pain to load test and I know it's hit or miss. Boy, you got to try it at least.
All right. No, that is good. That's a good lesson learned, because if you're not throwing a bunch of load on it, you're not going to know if something like that is a trigger.
Yeah. Because when we were doing it, we did the whole 2 a.m. launch, that kind of jazz. And everything was working great when there was 6 of us hitting it. But as soon as it hit scale, it was up and down falling.
Well, great lesson learned, to say the least. Bradley, thank you so much for getting uncensored with me today. I love your hands-on leadership approach. Sounds like you're truly in the trenches with your team, figuring out solutions, making it happen. And you have a very systematic way how you go about your role as a CTO. I love how you said that you got to make sure you know how to sell, trust your teams. Phenomenal. Appreciate you coming on. Before we wrap, what's your final no BS advice for today's tech leaders out there who are dealing with the same challenges you are day in and day out?
The biggest one I would say is lean into risk, because all too often people in our position shy away from risk. But right now we're at the pivotal point with AI where we have to. Otherwise, our businesses will get left behind.
That is good advice, and I couldn't agree more. Bradley, thank you so much. That's it for this episode of Software Leaders Uncensored. I'm Steve Taplin. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to hit subscribe. Remember to fail hard, win big, and always build what matters. See you next time. That's a wrap. Another great episode of Software Leaders Uncensored. Thank you guys so much for listening. I really appreciate it. It's a lot of fun doing this show. I love talking with great tech leaders. As a side note, if you're interested, check out my new book, Fail Hard, Win Big. This is the story of how I built 30 companies, failed on 20, and turned 10 into multi-million-dollar wins. The common thread with all of them was custom software. Also, if you need software development help out there, my company, Sonatafy Technology, we deliver world-class software development engineers out of Latin America. We have a solid track record of helping companies launch better products and faster. Thanks again for listening. Appreciate it and appreciate you.